Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Nerd Haven podcast. This is episode 17. We're talking about Thor Ragnarok today. It's been quite the journey to make it to this one, but here we are. I have no idea. This is one of the movies that I think I'm not exactly sure how John's going to feel about it. He's either going to hate it or he's going to really like it. No idea. But anyway, with us today is Solitary that joined us for was it the first Thor?
Yeah.
And so yeah, hi Solitary, John. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Hello.
Was that you trying to match like the same key?
Yes.
You do not have perfect
tried.
pitch, my friend.
Oh well.
It's okay. We all can't be good at everything, John. And your stuff is hating people that things usually love. That's usually what you're good at. So I think we're gonna get to the point of this podcast. And how do we feel about this movie? Solitary, let's start with you. Do you like Thor Ragnarok?
No.
No. Okay.
Nah. At the time, I thought it was different. It was interesting. But when I look at it in terms of Thor's development, it was like the start of the Homer Simpsonification of him. And it's like, it leaves a bad taste for me now.
I like how you describe it as Homer Simpsonification because I literally describe it as enshittification of Thor Begins.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so I guess I'm going to be alone in this one. I actually really like Thor Ragnarok. But for different reasons. I do think Thor starts to get very silly in this movie. But it being a Thor movie, he's actually not why I like this movie. I like this movie because I think it's probably one of the most like fun and entertaining of the Thor movies, if we don't count like the first one. The second one I hate it so much, so this one was kind of, I don't know, like a pick-me-up for me. But in this one, what I like is Hulk, actually. I think that this is the last time in the MCU that I actually like Hulk. Because from here on forward, I'm not a big fan of Professor Hulk. I always liked angry Hulk, the smashing, in this one he
Like
actually
the actual Hulk.
Actually hulking out, actually being angry. This one he starts talking a bit more, but it's just like a small development, like an infant type of thing. And I think that this is as far as I would want it to go.
You will not be alone, M9, because while Solitary hates this movie, apparently, and you kind of adore it, I am kind of in the middle, because whenever I first watched it, I found it insulting. I found it unfunny. I found it just completely ridiculous, too over the top, and there were a lot of parts that I hated about this movie. I still kind of do, and I would definitely mention them. But at the same time, watching this for like the third time today, I found it to be rather enjoyable and easy watch at times, especially the first half. I found quite interesting and fun, and there are definitely a lot of scenes that I would like to bring up because they were quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that that's where I am too. I feel like it's a very easy watch. It's one that we always talk about like how rewatchable something is for me. I think this is one that you can pop in and enjoy some of those scenes, enjoy some of the banter, and not really be weighed down by a whole lot. But I think that that's also something that kind of works against it. I feel like the weight and the stakes in this movie are kind of non-existent.
It was both too much, but not enough at the same time. Like there was too much going on, but they didn't mean anything. Any of it didn't mean anything. As how I felt. Like I said, if I was just watching that as a standalone film, I'd be like, I mean, that was fun. But where it is in terms of Thor, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, Ragnarok itself, the end of the world, or at least the end of Asgard in this iteration, it shouldn't be something to joke about. It shouldn't be something funny. It shouldn't be something that Thor himself needs to learn from the giant Surtur. He he is a part of this mythology. I feel like Odin should have mentioned like a few things, when he raised him as his son, the god, the all-father, about some of these things. And it seems like Thor is just an ignorant fool who is kind of like discovering this lore behind this world, that he's firm part
Yeah.
of.
Yeah, I think where this movie went wrong in some ways is Marvel's overcorrection. And they do this every now and then with some of their movies. And the fact that a lot of people it didn't enjoy the second Thor because of how dramatically different it was in tone, they overcorrected. And there's some things about this one that I feel could have actually had a darker tone. Some of the things that happened with Hela, even though there are some things, especially with Hela and the family side of Thor and Loki and stuff, it still is kind of overshadowed by the grand spectacle that is, everything in this movie.
Indeed. Hela was I would say, probably the best part of this movie to me. She was incredible. I loved every single scene with her, and I remember from the very first movie, I kept criticizing Odin to be this senile old man who just has horrible plans, who's pretty much kind of like an abusive parent. And most
Yeah.
of the problems that Asgard faces, most of the issues that Thor has to deal with, the fact that his mother, Odin's wife, dies, it's all kind of Odin's fault. And for him to just kind of stand there and be like, Frigga is calling me, I must join her. Bitch, you are not worthy of going to Valhalla. You might be the god of gods, the All-Father, but you did not die a glorious death in battle. You did not even show bravery. You showed freaking fear in the face of what's to come that you caused. Odin is a bitch. And apart from like the few final moments where Thor is kind of like talking to him in spirit and stuff, which were pretty cool, Odin is just a complete failure of a father and an institution.
That
Wow.
felt like it came out of nowhere as well. Like that isn't what they were showing us he was until that. And I'm like, who is this? I wasn't a fan of Odin, and especially not his parenting skills. But like,
it's definitely the
hell is
overcorrecting.
this?
They overcorrected with Odin as well.
Yeah, like they just like I said, I wasn't a fan of him anyway, but they just ruined him. They just made him this weak bitch, and you're like, no, he can't. He can't be. He can't have lasted as long as he has and done as much as he's done to be this weak, sniveling little bitch.
Although,
Damn.
like Loki sending him to a retirement home was a hilarious joke to me. I definitely laugh at that, and that's what he deserves. He should be sent to like Florida, to like a retirement home and just play golf and get bitten by mosquitoes for the rest of his life. He does not deserve to go to Valhalla and join his heroic wife Frigga, of course. So yeah, he just dies of old age and regret, just like Padme in Star Wars.
Oh my god. I agree. I think one of the things that we talked about in the original Thor movies was the fact that at least the justification of Odin being a bad father was the fact that he was a king. Like, he was a king first and then a father. And I think his priorities were in the kingdom. And with that said, I could almost forgive the way he was. But then with this turn was like, I actually didn't really buy it. I loved the moment for Thor and for Loki. Like, I loved that they had that moment. But I didn't love it for Odin. Like, it just felt weird.
I remember at the time thinking it was one of Loki's tricks.
Yeah.
Like I didn't believe it that much. That I just thought he's having them on. Like it's him. He's doing this. He's just trying to like pretend to thought that this is what's happening because you know what he's like. But no, just ruined him.
Yeah, I also think, speaking of Loki, this just kind of put him. I've had a love-hate relationship with Loki, and not hate as in I hate the character, hate as in I hate the things he does.
Yeah.
But I've always really liked the character. Tom Hiddleston, the way that he plays him, I think was perfect. And in this movie, actually, that goes like further. I absolutely adore Loki, and once you get to the Loki series, you've already gotten so much of him, and um, they don't waste any time in trying to get you to understand him or his motivations or his personality, and I think it works out.
I despised Loki in this movie, but not in a good way. I actually thought he was just a brainless moron who just, at first, he does not comprehend the idea of stealth or acting in any single way. In the second movie, he did a good job. He fooled Thor, at the end. But in this one, he just completely turned into a fail RPer, and just the way he roleplayed Odin was just laughably stupid. And hence my comment about him being just a brainless moron. What about the rest of Asgard? If he acted like this, would no one raise an eye, an eyelash about this? Wouldn't they, I don't know, consider this a bit weird that all of a sudden Odin started acting completely different like that?
Yeah, it's
I
almost
can only
like
imagine.
Who's dumber, like the Asgardians or Loki?
Exactly.
Yeah, but they couldn't really question it though.
They can't.
If it was Odin acting like that, they can't really go, this, are you doing the right thing? Because he's shown multiple times that he knows what he's doing, but at the same time,
Okay.
Loki doing it that way was to obviously just totally rip the pace and destroy
his reputation.
Mhm.
I could understand the Asgardians being like brainless sheep that kind of fell for it all. I get it, he's a king, he's very powerful still, but Sir mentioned at the very beginning when he had Thor, in the shackles, that Odin is not on Asgard anymore.
Yeah, he knew. Yeah.
Couldn't he have sent an anonymous letter? And if Sir knows this, freaking miles away, a planet away, wouldn't the Asgardians notice something?
Right. Yeah. It's I think it was a plot tool for humor, and it didn't.
Yeah, it was played for laughs.
Yeah, it didn't really work that well. The stage play stuff is, I don't know. I think it was an interesting joke the first time we saw it, but it just
it was so hilarious. We needed to see it the second time.
Right.
9.
Yeah, nah.
Such a good joke. Oh my god, everyone must have loved it in cinema. People must have been throwing buckets of popcorn in the air, just laughing their asses off.
Yeah. So, one of the other reasons that I enjoyed this movie was because I felt this had a better balance of action, comedy, and seriousness than Guardians Volume 2 did. And I think that made me enjoy it more. It's like I went into it a bit hesitant because of Guardians Volume 2, and getting a bit of a relief that it didn't feel like that not everyone was the butt of a joke. They had a lot of people making jokes they probably shouldn't have been. But it was like the beginning of Marvel saying, okay, we need to ease back on that. And I appreciate it.
I found the action scenes very good in this movie. I usually skip them, but the fight between Thor and Hulk in the Colosseum was so meaty and it was so cool.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that went on for too long.
Okay.
Just that bit, it was just we haven't seen Hulk fighting people before. Oh, great. I was watching something the day and they said that the idea, I don't know how true it is, came from a Hulk comic where Hulk was the main character. He'd ended up on a different planet and he'd done this fight and stuff, and then he ended up being king of the planet and stuff. And I'm like, that's so much more interesting than what you gave me. I would have liked to have seen it from his perspective, him getting there, how he dealt with it, how he got to where he is, before Thor just turned up. It felt like too many different things. I would have probably really enjoyed that more if I saw his development and the other characters around him's development more, instead of Jeff Goldblum's character turning up and just being an absolute clown. And that Valkyrie person who, if I never see again, I'll be happy. Like, these people, I don't care
I
about them.
cannot
Don't
agree with
give me
that
these
at all.
people.
I love me some
Oh,
Valkyrie.
Okay, let's take it
can't-
point by
I
point
can't
because
stand it.
saw that I made a bunch of good ones and maybe even some questionable ones for M9. But like, I agree. I would love to see what happened to Hulk and how he got there because the entire movie I was asking myself, how the fuck did Hulk get on this planet in I don't know, a helicopter spaceship that is not even supposed to go to space? Did he like fly too fast because he got angry and like suddenly entered like a wormhole that brought him to this planet? At least like say something. He's a scientist. He should know. And it feels like he doesn't even know how he got here. Like that just was a little bit immersion breaking for me because I don't believe those like shield freaking aircrafts, they're not supposed to fly to space and to other planets.
Mhm.
Yeah, I never really thought about it too much because I guess it doesn't matter that much, but it does feel a bit odd when you actually put some thought into it. Because they did show him flying off, right? That was the last that we saw him. A lot of people were expecting to get some Planet Hulk action from comic book fans, but that's not what happened. And it was kind of like an inspiration of, I guess. The only thing that I can, I don't know, justify is that the Hulk is kind of immortal. Like he
Yeah.
probably he probably doesn't need oxygen. Like he could go to space.
But like he still needs like an engine or like some kind of rocket
Right,
thing,
right.
that would
He
get
still
him
needs
to
a
a different planet.
destination and a way to get to a destination. He's not just floating around in space by himself, not breathing.
Yeah, but
Exactly. He didn't have the
we've
technology
seen-
to get there.
With like the Guardians of the
Mhm.
Galaxy, we've seen so much silly shit and small ships flying everywhere and going through wormholes and stuff like that. So it's like, I think they're expecting us to suspend disbelief a bit, but I agree that some sort of explanation could have come in handy. Like,
Yeah, Marvel is usually very consistent and very good when it comes to these things. And sure, like you need to embrace a certain degree of magic or like sciencey stuff, but like at the very least they try. And in this movie, I feel like they really dropped the ball with this one. I know it's a small thing, but I did have a little like autistic screech about it, and I apologize. I won't bring it up again.
yeah, no, I definitely get it. Like at least him explaining once he turned back into Bruce, him explaining like what happened or the last thing he remembers or some like I know that he tried to talk about it a bit, but I think it could have been expanded upon a bit more.
I would like to use this opportunity to apologize to Scarlett Johansson because I was never really a fan of this Hulk and ScarJo love story.
Romance.
You know,
Yeah.
I found it disgusting. I found it forced. But the moment when we find out that Hulk was a Hulk for like 2 years and he suddenly enters, this aircraft and sees the message that conveniently starts playing from Natasha, and he's like, oh, he just like turns back into Bruce Banner. I was like, oh, that's sweet. Maybe they do have a
It's
chance
so
to be together.
unbelievable.
But I liked it. It was romantic.
You're such a
No, it's not.
John's
I ship
such a
it now.
romantic. Yeah, he's just it was sweet. It
Like,
was
I
sweet, but I
I
don't
like
think
romance and things.
do you?
You
Yeah, no,
don't.
I do. But
You
they
bite your
didn't- there was
tongue.
there was absolutely no romance there. There was no romance there.
Up until this movie.
I think
No, there's
that
not.
it wasn't deserved. It was a nice moment, but I do still think that the whole Scarlett Johansson and I mean Black Widow, not Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow and Bruce Banner romance was completely forced. And
Yes.
this was like one of those moments that it was like, okay, like it paid off what you were trying to do, but that doesn't make it any less forced.
Yeah.
Although
that's my
I was the
thing.
one heavily arguing your exact point, M9, in the previous podcast.
Mhm.
In this one, I will have to disagree with myself. And I will have to admit that I did like this scene for what it was. And I kind of now embrace the previous uncomfortable attempts of bringing them together just for this payoff. I think it worked out for me.
That's
It
good.
would have been a nice scene had it have been between two characters that I felt actually meant something to each other.
Oh, you're
Like
such a
if it
woman.
was, it just needed to have meaning, and those two just don't have meaning. And it was like, oh please, as if.
Stop being
It's
such a
how I
woman
felt at the
solitary,
time.
okay? Sometimes just love is in the air and it grows into this beautiful flower, and you're just there to stamp on it, okay?
Yeah, men
But
are
you can
simple
easily
creatures. We just
convey
want
that.
somebody to calm us down when we're hulking out.
Yes.
That's it.
But like it could have been conveyed in looks. There could have been like things like that between them, but there was no chemistry between those two characters that I ever saw. Like you don't have to have a full-on romance to know that there's a connection between characters. And I never saw that with them two. And then you give me this and you're really trying to feed me this like crap sandwich, not you, the film, of this actually meaning something. And I'm like, no. But
That's
it
because you're a
did the
woman and
trick.
you don't understand love.
John, have you given
course
us
we
your
don't.
woman disclaimer today, just in case?
Oh, yes, I apologize. I
Yeah,
figured
big
since
on
there
that.
is one, it's kind of like implicit, that we do have like a participation here to hold me accountable for anything I say.
Yeah. In a nutshell, John doesn't hate women, but he's always talking shit about women.
I have a friend. She's a woman. She's right here. Her
Yeah.
name is Solitary. Say hi, Solitary.
Hi, Solitary.
Thank you. And since we are talking about Solitary and the fact that she's a woman, I would just like to say that I had no idea up until today that Scourge, the Heimdall's replacement with a big tattoo on his
All
head,
urban.
was played by Karl Urban. Because you told me that Karl
Yeah.
Urban is everywhere, I started seeing him
I did.
everywhere finally. And I actually recognized him. And I also made another realization that is far more relevant to you, Solitary, because I finally made a connection and realized that this invisible cunt of a man who was kept hiding from me up until today, if Solitary was a man, she would have been Karl Urban.
John, I already
is
said
my
that
sentence.
before.
Well, I say it now too.
I brought it up
because-
in your
That's
stream.
all the time.
Yeah, I brought it up in your stream because I'm a big fan of The Boys on Amazon. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm listening to a man version of Solitary. All the
That's
time.
amazing. I literally must have forgotten
Eminem told me
M9.
that before.
Well, maybe that's where I derived it from, and I just wasn't paying attention before, but I couldn't recall you saying it. But that's
But I'm glad
hilarious.
that you agree though, because I'm not alone.
Yes, I do.
I know, but since we're talking about him, I quite liked that he gets character development because normally, like
Yeah.
the henchmen kind of either get like character development or they die, but he gets an arc. I like that.
Yeah,
And
he
he's a
gets
good actor,
a bit of a
so-
redemption, and yeah, it was
Mhm.
nice. I agree. It's some of his other like friends or Thor's friends that we met. They were kind of meaningless, but
I
Yeah.
was so glad to see them die so unceremoniously. That was hilarious to me.
yeah,
I think that was a shame.
it
Like,
was a shame.
that he just, it was like, you build these characters up and like the first one, and then, oh, okay, we're just left with the rock monster after this.
Oh my goodness,
Hey,
the rock monster.
you be nice to Korg, okay? I finally realized what was the meaning behind those stupid ass cards in Marvel Snap when I first watched this movie. So I was grateful for his display on the scene, and I found him quite cute, kind of cool. He
I
was
don't
a
know.
good character.
It was so memey. Hey man, I liked him. I do. I think for as far as comedic, I feel like they made a character that's a bit silly and he's consistently that way. I don't feel like they
Yeah.
ever push him further or pull him back. Because if I would rather that than get one of the characters we already know being completely silly, like the problem I have with Nebula in Guardians Volume 2. This
Fuck you.
Mhm.
He's consistently
Nebula is great.
He's consistently the way that he is, and I kind of appreciate that. But he is still kind of memey.
Yeah,
He's
is.
very comedy relief. Like he's the comedic sidekick, but I don't think that works when you're turning your main character into like a Homer Simpson. You don't need a comedic sidekick with a
it's too much.
comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like him being Jar Jar Binks, I did actually kind of enjoy him on the screen. I thought he was well done. But I also agree, he either has no place in this movie or Thor shouldn't have been a joke character and this should have been like the comedic relief or something. It was
Yeah,
too
like
Yeah, just like a little bit more serious. No, it didn't have to be like completely serious, but when you have that going on, it's kind of like, oh.
Yeah, I agree. And
Not
like
as
some of
funny.
my favorite things about Thor, like in the first one, was his interactions with others. He was really funny, not trying to be funny.
He was
Yes.
subtle funny.
Yeah, he was.
Mhm.
The situations he was in was funny. The interactions he had were funny, but he was never silly or or made into a joke, which is not the case now. Thor's character
Absolutely.
has been all over the goddamn place in the MCU, and I think he's one of the least well handled characters in all of the MCU. His like the series of Thor movies are all over the damn place, tonally and just how good they are, and it's a damn shame.
And unfortunately, it's only going to get worse.
Agreed.
They did Thor dirty. They really did. Like, remember when we did the one about the first film? The acting, the way Chris Hemsworth handled the comedy, and the way he did it, it was good. It was funny. It wasn't too much. And then they just like did the poor man dirty.
Yeah.
Yet.
And that's why I don't like about this film, because I feel like this was the big start of like dumbing him down to where he didn't need to be.
You know what I like though about Thor in this movie? The fact that he finally kind of figured Loki out, and his statement to him that he is becoming predictable and he's just doing the same shit over and over again.
Yeah.
He also pointed out like another reason why I hated Loki in this movie, the fact that he's just so freaking samey and just does the same shit all over again, and it's so predictable and readable. Loki's supposed to be smart, he's supposed to be trickster, but like if you keep betraying everyone at all times whenever it's convenient to you, that's not being tricky, that's being stupid, that's being crazy if you think it's gonna work.
Yeah, but
And it didn't.
I actually really appreciated this setup as for the Loki series, because I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's more of a character flaw than like he was written badly. I think that it works for the character, and it's a great foundation for what happens to him in his TV show.
Yeah, but that's like me saying that, the previous attempts of bringing Scarlett Johansson and Hulk together, was a great build-up, for this movie. And I would have never made such a stupid-ass claim, right?
You just said it.
I know.
Yeah. But, backtracking to solitary hating women, I want to... You hate Valkyrie. Why?
Yeah. What was the point in that character?
She's...
You could have removed her from
Asgardian.
the film, but you could have just removed her from it, and it wouldn't have made any difference to like the plot. I don't think it could have been somebody else. It could have been someone from somewhere else. It didn't like there was no. It
So you just found
felt
her
like
to be a placeholder.
Yeah, they just felt like they needed. So in Tally when they call it jump on the shark, when suddenly there's a family member that you never knew that these people had, and it was like they needed something else that tied in to the sister, because the Valkyries are the ones that fought her like millennia ago or however long it was. And I'm like, give me something better. Give me a warrior. Don't give me this. Like,
it was very convenient
she
for
starts
the plot.
Absolutely, yeah. She starts off wrong for me, and I don't think I ever forgive her for getting off on the wrong foot.
I agree with what you're saying, but I don't think it took away from her as a character for me. I really enjoyed her as a character.
Mhm.
And if women get eye candy with Thor, then we deserve eye candy with Valkyrie. That's all that I'm saying. No, but Marvel has this tendency of having to shoehorn characters in because they're going to mean something more later on. And I think that this is one of those examples, right? Like, and then you see other characters doing it in other movies as well. Like, you could take those characters out of the movie and the movie wouldn't change at all. But it was kind of the only place to introduce that character if you wanted to use her again, So it's, I mean, maybe not the only, but it was, I guess it worked conveniently.
No, it was a convenient way. Yeah, I can say that, but still want her out. Get rid.
I agree with you, Solitary. I disliked her very much basically, during any of my watches of this movie. I find her to be very lame. I, in general, don't like characters that are supposed to be sassy and drunks. That is like a big no-no to me. And it's not that because she's a woman or because she's a lesbian or anything like that. I would want nothing more than a cool, badass chick who's a Valkyrie to freaking kick ass. But like, for her to go on this planet and to like be essentially a bounty hunter, I mean, the
Yeah.
idea is cool, but I just didn't like the execution. This character, I
Yeah.
found her to be just, I don't know, like meh. It's like so lame as a sidekick. Up until she dressed herself up for the final battle, where I thought she looked pretty badass, and I did kind of enjoy this slaughtering of the Valkyries by Hela. That they showed us a little flashback that
Yeah.
Loki forced her to recall. That
was
was
really
kind of
cool.
heartbreaking. But I don't know. I feel like Valkyries have such a huge potential, and this seemed to me like a kind of like a wasted execution.
I agree with what you guys are saying. I like her much more later on when she becomes more meaningful to the people of Asgard and the things that she does in like an Endgame. I like her as a character. However, the introduction could have been better. I don't know how. I don't know
Yeah.
what would have worked better. But yeah, it was weird to start at a low and then try to build her up.
I think it was probably so we can say like character progression and what, but like if you're going to
Mhm.
give me a strong female character, give me a strong female character. Don't give me a drunk. I don't want that. Like I like strong females are great. It's always good to say
Yeah.
like, you know, one kicking ass on the screen and that, but don't give me this just lousy drunk who just like, oh, you know, woe is me. No, be a fighter. Be that's what you are. If you're going to introduce it as that. If it was, I think if she had been like a background character or something, or I don't know how they could have done it, but
Yeah, I don't know either.
I
Maybe
do
if
think
she
maybe
was
trying
like,
to give character progression.
maybe it would have been better if she just wasn't a great fighter and we just saw her getting knocked down or whatever, and then like with training she got better, or she didn't necessarily like believe in herself, or something like that. I don't necessarily think you have to make someone a drunk for them to have, you know, a glow up moment.
Yeah. Mhm.
Marvel is kind of guilty of using alcohol as something empowering, somewhat of a hey, I'm
debuff.
gonna deal
Yeah.
with I'm gonna deal with all the bad shit that happened to my character in the past
Very
by
true.
just starting off as a drunk whenever I first appear on the screen, and I could see that with like a noir setting like Jessica Jones. I could totally understand that, but there are definitely, and this is a big fault of the TV shows. Alcohol is just an immediate, I would say, tool or like a feature of characters that are supposed to showcase on the screen that they are going through something bad, something harsh. And I think it's a very bad example
it's a
of how to
trope,
deal with
yeah.
these complicated emotions. Yeah, I think it's a very lazy trope. And I actually think it's also an unhealthy trope because I find it kind of gross. It's like, hey, I'm sad. I'm gonna go shoot up some drugs. Hey guys, you got some heroin? I'm gonna shoot it in my veins and I'm gonna deal with it for a bit, but then I'm gonna go save the world. It was worth it. Yay.
That's the part for me. If you start them off as a drunk, but then suddenly they're fine after they've done one thing. Like, have you seen an alcoholic? That's not how that works.
It's not at all.
If you're gonna use something so serious as alcoholism, don't do it as a joke. Like, it's not a joke.
I agree. Although, like, in their defense, they're Asgardians and they're big drinkers. Like, we've seen Thor drinking from the very beginning. We see him drinking out of a magic mug at one point. We see.
Yeah, that is true. But they're like social drunks, They don't drink
But it's not
like
played
this.
as
It's not
him being
alcoholism.
a
Yeah.
drunk.
Right.
Indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. This chick is drinking to drown her sorrow, to forget.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's not even shown that well, that she's like combating, these demons from the past. We just kind of see her to be just like a happy drunk that is barely functioning.
That is
There's
very
just-
true. Yeah.
But we're focusing on it way too much, and this is not a movie about solving alcoholism or like showcasing it in like a
Good.
reasonable way. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Anyway,
it's one of the
final
reasons.
point,
Just
she's hot.
yeah.
Let's move forward. The
I don't even find her that hot until she wears that cool skin tight armor.
But like we had Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman was so much more. She's so much hotter than that woman. And like when I'm not going to give spoilers because I don't know if John's seen that, but like she's a better example.
John
I
hates
think
Natalie Portman. Go
in the
back to our
fighting and
previous
stuff.
episodes.
Oh God, I hate Natalie Portman.
I have many things to say, but I don't want to alienate our single female viewer who is currently in this podcast. So
Yeah,
I'm
no.
just gonna
But
refrain
wait
from
until
commentary.
we watch Thor: Love and Thunder. We have things to say.
I like that
Jesus
film.
Christ! You really
I like that
love
one
that
so
film.
much more than this. So much more than this.
Oof.
I can't wait to have you on that.
Yeah, you'll
They're
definitely come back for that one.
totally different films. Like they are totally different. Like there's nothing the same about them. I don't think, apart from the handling of Thor. I still don't think they did his character well, but totally different. But I liked it.
Yeah. Well,
I am just glad that they didn't turn her into a love, interest for Thor, because that would have been like so much worse.
Yeah, I thought they were going to at one point.
Yeah.
I also thought for a second, and I'm like,
Thank
boy.
God for lesbians.
Jesus.
All right, 15-year-old boy, calm down.
Yeah, I thought for a second they were going to, but then it was clear that they weren't, and I was happy about that.
Yeah, that was nice. I did like that because I don't like it when shows and films can't have men and women just being friends. Like there always has to be something between them, and then with that, it's like,
Right.
nah, never gonna happen.
Yeah. So let's talk about we kind of touched on the Hulk, but the Hulk is going through kind of a metamorphosis and like changing. How do you feel about the Hulk in this movie as opposed to like previous ones? Because we won't really get into what he becomes later on, but
I liked it. I liked the fight. I liked how he acted. I liked the way that he remained in his Hulk form up until the video. To me, he was an enjoyable part of this movie, and I am usually on the critical side of him because I kind of dislike Banner. But ever since the Norrington one, the very first one that I enjoyed, yep, I liked it. I have nothing bad to say about Hulk in this movie. I was definitely satisfied with his performance.
yeah, I think for my part, I agree with everything you said. The only negative I have is that he also kind of feels shoehorned in slightly. Like what you guys stated before, it's just kind of convenient that he showed up in this planet or in this time or whatever. It works for the plot and it works for, just having him as a side character in this movie. But it was a little too convenient. Other than that, I really liked the way that he was in this movie. And I wish he would have stayed that way.
I feel like Hela itself would have been a decent selling point for this movie, and I could have focused more on her instead of like this intergalactic paradise journey.
Hela was
That's what I
great.
meant by there was like too much going on. Like Hulk, how Hulk is, it's like the character portrayal. Nothing wrong with it. I used to watch the reruns of the like Lou Ferrigno Hulk and Hulk in the cartoons and stuff. Hulk in the cartoons was like this. And it was like, yeah, okay, this is Hulk. I'm fine with it. But as you said, it's like they did try and put, they took elements of that comic and that story and shoehorned Thor into it. Like we didn't get a proper Hulk view of things, and we didn't get a proper Thor story on that planet and stuff. It was a bit convenient, but if you just take it for what it was, fine.
Yeah.
My favorite scene that involved Hulk in this movie was the fact that whenever Loki first realized that Hulk, is the gladiator and the champion, he immediately wants to leave the planet because he just sees him.
and then he cheered on when what's his face got smashed on the ground.
Yeah. He still remembers.
I did love that part. One of my favorite parts in the movie was actually him and Thor sitting down on the little bed or cliff or whatever that they were on, and he was like, Thor like small fire, Hulk like big fire. Like I don't know why, but that type of comedy works so well for me because it's not trying super hard. It's just Thor being Hulk being a toddler and
Yeah.
Thor being prideful, which is what they are.
To me, it was incredibly childish, and I just kind of wanted to skip through those scenes. But
Yeah, it was supposed to be.
I-
Thor's a child. Hulk's a child.
I know, but it just was yet another example of the initiatification of Thor, and
That's true. As far
I
as
would have preferred a more serious Thor, but I totally get it. This is just like a small thing to criticize, just the style of this movie, the humor, and it is what it is.
I thought, we just
on.
mentioned Loki, but I know that like John hated him in this. I don't think he was coming across as stupid. Like, obviously, that kind of thing, he had a bit of fun. The fact that he'd like ingratiated himself in with like the leader guy, and he was, using his charm and stuff to get by. That was very lucky.
That was smart. That is true.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem. The same problem that John had with Loki in this movie. There's certain things that don't seem very Loki-like. There are other things that do, but I think at the end of it all, he still is out of his element in this place, and I think he has to play it carefully, and it's what he tries to do. But
so you did mention that you disliked the Grandmaster played by Jeff Goldblum, right?
Yeah, it was too much.
I loved him. I loved everything about him. He
There was
amazing.
certain points that had me laughing. Don't get us wrong. There was a few bits that made us laugh, but I've seen enough of Jeff Goldblum to expect this from him.
I haven't. I don't think I've seen a single movie with him, and I just found him so hilariously awkward, like at all times, and he was just great.
It's not just him in like films that I've seen. I've seen a lot of interviews with him. He's been a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race. I've watched films of his for years.
Yeah.
And
so
it's
he was
like,
basically playing Jeff Goldblum, a bit
Yes.
turned up, But I loved it. I love Jeff Goldblum, and I think that character for what he was a little bit. He reminded me a little bit of the Collector, but they actually spent some time with him.
I actually thought they were the same character.
Yeah, but because of the time and the effort they put into Jeff Goldblum's character, he worked out better than the Collector did.
The Collector felt like such a wasted opportunity. I still have no idea what they were trying to do with him.
Again, I think when it's just those plot tools,
Indeed. May I ask you guys about a specific part or feature of this movie, the soundtrack? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on it, like the overall package. Did you find it to be fun, enjoyable, nice, or do you find it to be distracting or just bad?
I think it's fine. It doesn't seem that memorable to me. I know the like that is sometimes a bit much for me. But it's usually used in moments that it's worth it. Like, I don't feel like things like that are like overused or take me out. But it's like Led Zeppelin in a Norse mythology movie. Okay.
I absolutely hated it. It ruined this movie for me. Like, at first, we get the stupid ass song, the and we get it for the second time during the final fight. And I get that there are lyrics about Valhalla and stuff, but like, that song just doesn't fit the scene at all. You could have picked any other cooler freaking Viking metal songs, in there to kind of go along, with the Thor stuff. But like, this movie and like the insistence on using this stupid ass modern song, so just lame to me. I got like an allergic reaction every time I heard that song, and now from now on, whenever I hear it, I will just cringe, because of this movie. And then, like in the middle, whenever they're on the portal planet, we get like this weird ass synthwave cyberpunk music. It's like, I get it, you're on
Oh my God,
a
I don't even
different
remember
planet,
that.
but like, this is not like Cyberpunk 2077, you know? We're not like riding an elevator and like it's weird. I get it, we're in space, but still, you know, this is a Thor movie. There should be like at least some like epic. I feel like the previous movies did so much better with the background music, and this one just wanted to be cool, hip, modern, bright lights, bright colors, yeah. And like
That's what the director is kind of. I think that's part of the director fucking up with this
I see.
film.
Yeah.
That's
We
how
are just
I feel about it. Yeah,
It was Taika,
we're so
right?
far away.
It was Taika
Mhm.
Waititi that
It
directed
was.
this movie, that's what he's known for. Like the loud.
I feel like he was off his tits though when he did the Thor films. Genuinely, because like I've seen some of his other stuff, right? And he can be funny. He can be subtly
yeah,
funny.
he's very funny.
The writing and stuff's great. And I feel like with this one, he like up now he must have been on an acid trip with some of the stuff that's how I felt like when I was watching it because of how jarring some things were. And I do remember the music. Now John's point. John did a very good impression. Yeah, I know what you're talking about with that. And I feel like he was just, I don't know what, I feel like he was aiming for the cool factor and it doesn't come off that way when you aim for it, I don't think.
Yeah, it's like Norse myth with modern rock. It's just I mean,
It could be done, but it wasn't good done.
I mean,
well,
they did
yeah.
the same thing for Wonder Woman. We're not talking about that, but she had a very similar theme song, and she's kind of based on Greek mythology, which is like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, I just thought that the music didn't fit at all. Even the aesthetics, I thought it was just a bit too much. But it's just the artistic choice of this movie, and I
Right.
guess we don't
Mhm.
need to love it.
But yeah, I think we covered a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up, John? Anything in your notes that we may have missed?
I would like to discuss, or at least ask you guys what you thought about the Doctor Strange part of this movie, because I thought it was amazing. It was like such a change of pace, and I love Doctor Strange as a character. I loved his depiction here. I loved his role in here. He came across as very strong, very helpful, very fair, and sure, maybe some of the jokes there were a bit too much, but this is what it is. And yeah, I loved him in this movie. He was greatly executed.
I agree. There's something so grounded about Doctor Strange for somebody that can do kind of anything. His personality feels so real. Even more so than sometimes like Tony or other humans. It just, I don't know. He kind of feels like somebody you would know and can kind of be a dick sometimes, but kind of be funny and helpful and caring. And in both this and then when we see him as kind of a cameo in other movies as well, I enjoyed his scenes.
Yeah,
So
I enjoyed that part. I feel like what M9 said, it, I don't know, it felt like that part was grounded and I liked it. And it was a shame that the rest of the film wasn't like that.
yeah, it almost didn't fit, right?
And yeah, it's true.
In like a good
Yeah,
way.
it was good. It was done well and it was good and he was believable. And like M9 said, it is because he does feel more human. And then and he's got powers. Then the people that don't have powers, I think he's a good, well-rounded character, and I liked that part of the film when he was in it. And it was like, if we could have carried on that way, if the film had have been like that the whole way through, I would have enjoyed it so much more than the big, flashy, like epileptic fit that like I could have had watching the film.
Indeed.
Yeah,
But
I wonder if they feel the pressure of that, the Thor being such a grand and powerful character, that they do have to go bigger and flashier. But I agree.
that was quite obvious from this movie that just the popular reception of the second movie probably wasn't that great. I can only imagine, too dark, too gritty, too grounded. So they went, as you said, the opposite way. They overcorrected,
Extreme,
and
yeah.
we got this. And in certain ways, I did enjoy this movie. It was fun. I probably would watch it again and found certain things to be rather enjoyable. But it's a wasted potential, this movie. That's what I would call it. I feel like it could have been so much more, so much better. even small things. Some of the large things could have been done better, but there was a lot of cool stuff too. Like freaking for Asgard with two dual wielding M16s. Freaking Carl Urban was like
So
kind of
random.
cool.
And it was amazing.
I
And
have
Kate
a
Blanchett.
comparison. I've got a comparison for this. It feels like, do you remember the original Michael Keaton Batmans? And then it switched into the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger and George Clooney, and like,
it went sillier, campier.
It went like off in a totally different direction,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't really go down well with. I mean, the kids liked it, I think, because the director was told he had to do it this way. It needed to be more marketable. It needed to be like, we have to sell the toys. We've got to do this. And it's kind of, when I was thinking about it today, I felt like that's how it feels. The way it went in a totally different direction. It was like, it was kind of forced that way. I don't know if that's how he might have always been planning on directing it this way, the director and stuff. But that's just what it was reminding me of. Like, we had this kind of tone that had been set. And then you give us like, I don't know, you give us a rave when I was used to a waltz. It was like, it just felt like that for me.
It's a very good observation, though. I think you're right. Both of you with the way they had to switch tones. It wasn't very well accepted by critics or fans, and the second one, that is. So they had to try something different. I think a lot of people miss that humor from the first movie, because the second one was so dark, so they just turned it up times 10. And in some parts it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Also, I know John was saying that Kate Blanchett was great. I didn't see enough of her. I don't feel like I saw enough of her character, because she's a great actress. I've seen her in other things. I know she's good. And when I did see the character, I didn't like the character, but I liked her performance.
Mm-hmm.
She made me not like she did a good job of making me like feel a certain way about the character. But I wanted to see more. It felt like she's just here for one thing and then off. Like, that's it.
She deserved an entire movie about her, and less about Thor just hooking up with Hulk and the Valkyrie on this strange planet. That was definitely a big mistake this movie made.
We could have had her origin story instead. That sounded amazing. Her and Odin going around, and they were like just like conquering places and taking over things.
Yeah.
And then he had to put her away. And you're like, if you had
it shows the heartbreaking moment, of her like feeling betrayed and guilty, and giving her justification for doing all of this,
Yeah,
like, show how it progressed to her dad turning on her, because that's what happened. He turned on her.
Mm-hmm. Where they went wrong with that, I think, is like we learned all that so quickly with her without being exposed to her character that long, that it was hard to feel bad for her, because she was already a villain in our eyes. But I think it would have been so much better if, kind of like what they did with Loki, right? We saw them growing up and we saw them doing all of this, and then we can understand Loki's anger and feeling rejected. They wanted me to understand that about Hela, but I never really sympathized with her, and I think it would have been nice to.
Indeed.
It would have been such a cool film, though, if they had done that.
Closest we've gotten to this was when her and Thor met, like on the throne, and before she pierced his eye, or slashed his eye out, they had like a little exchange together.
Yeah.
And I as saw that, and you guys said, I would have wanted nothing more than more of this. But like before, this even happened, to justify, her being a bad guy.
Yeah, there was a lot of things about her character.
Such a cool concept.
It does. There was a lot of things about her character that I wished Loki was more like. Like leaning more towards that, like, because she felt super mischievous and evil to me, and at times Loki doesn't feel that way. But I think Loki's more about like, the deception and treachery than anything.
Indeed.
Yeah, she felt like the evil that people want Loki to be. Like, they want him to be chaotic and mischievous and evil, and like she was presented to us as evil because she wants to destroy things, but she's actually going for it. She's not hiding behind stuff. She's there. She's going for it. She's doing it.
Through brute force and just brutality.
Yeah, that's so much more compelling to me. Like, I want to see this. I want to see her take over. I want to see, like, how she got there with Loki and, like, oh, woe is me. Your parents brought you up properly. Did they abandon you? No, they did not. Did they mistreat you? No, they did not. You're just a whinge sometimes. Whereas, like,
that...
she, you know.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you. I know that we're not supposed to glorify like bad people, those that are just assholes, genocidal maniacs and stuff. But like we mentioned, like strong female characters before, she felt like so much cooler to me than the freaking Valkyrie girl. I know that one is good, one is bad, and we're supposed to cheer, like of course for the good guy and stuff. But like. Freaking even the acting performance of like Hela was just miles better to me than what we saw with the Valkyrie.
Yeah, she was a badass. She was doing it. That's what it was. She was doing it. Whereas with Valkyrie, it's like, to go away.
So I guess in this crazy-ass movie filled with characters that were just all over the place, we can all agree on at least one thing, and that's the fact that Odin is the worst fucking father in Asgard and in this universe, and just like in every Thor movie we've ever watched.
In Asgard and the whole universe. Actually...
Maybe Thanos is worse, yes.
No, I mean,
right.
Yeah, Thanos is a really bad dad. But I was also thinking about...
He had a good idea.
What's his face? The Hulk's girlfriend's dad. He's a pretty bad dad.
Him, I know who you mean.
Yeah, like he was like the general
from the first Hulk movie.
Yeah. And then
we
see him
again
again
my god.
Too,
but he did redeem himself eventually. He was a prick.
Yeah, really bad dad.
He was just an army dad,
Army, that's true. That is
just
true.
An army dad.
All army dads are the worst. But hey, the little girls, they eventually get through them and melt their cold army heart.
Well, any finishing thought, guys? Oh, actually, speaking of finishing thoughts, the end of this movie, I thought worked really well as far as like setting up a huge desperation with the Asgardians, but then also setting up for Infinity War. And the survivors like floating out there and Thanos arriving was like a very ominous way of ending, and I thought it was great.
I have nothing to comment about that because there is a matter that we will discuss in the future movie, I believe Avengers Infinity War. So I will refrain from any commentary for now.
But yeah, I felt it ominous.
That was good.
Well, what is your closing statement, John?
I would like to apologize to the entirety of woman race. No, really.
On behalf of the useless Valkyrie?
Yes, thank you, Solder, for being here, and of course for representing the womanity, as I like to call them. But yeah, I did kind of enjoy this movie. It was fun. I like it more every time I watch it again. But I'm just so sad that they kind of fucked up some of the parts of it because I feel like this could have been a very good Thor movie. And I feel like it's, to me, the worst Thor movie right now.
Interesting. I don't agree, obviously, but yeah. What about you, Salter?
Like I said, if it was a standalone, if I wasn't invested in any of the characters, I would have thought I would have thought it to be like a fun watch if I didn't think too much about it. Like obviously, if I didn't care about Thor and I wasn't interested in where he was going and what was happening to him, I would have been like, yeah. Like at the time, I thought it's okay. I think it's just obviously afterwards, what happened afterwards, how it, like I look back at it. But if you were just going to watch it and just like turn off your brain and just watch a film, I'd say, yeah, give it a go.
Awesome. Well, Solitary, I know that John thanked you, but I will thank you as well. Thanks for hanging out and chatting with us.
No, thank you for having me.
We will bring you back.
For being a woman.
Thank you for being a woman. We'll have you back for Love and Thunder if you wish to be back, or any other one.
Oh yeah, I like Love and Thunder, so.
Oof.
I'm in the minority. I know I'm in the minority.
But thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you all for listening, and we will see you all next time.
What are we watching next, Mr. Nine?
What are we watching next?
I will tell you right now once I look it up. I believe it's gonna be Wakanda, right?
Wakanda Forever?
The first Black Panther review.
Oh, Black Panther, the first one. Okay.
Let me verify. Yes, Thor Ragnarok, and then we have Black Panther. So yeah, that's gonna be fun because this is one of the movies on the list that we will watch.
This is one of the movies that we need to watch in the MCU.
All I'm gonna say is that I'm gonna need light, just like with the Spider-Man movie.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Black Panther 2018, I think. Yeah, we'll be chatting it up next time. Thank you all. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Solitary.
Many times.
See you.